Hello, my name is Aubrey. I'm so glad you're here. Today, I am here with the mid-year book freakout tag. This is just a really fun tag that I feel like has become booktube tradition at this point, so without further ado, let's just get into the questions. Question number 1 is the best book you've read so far in 2023. I feel like I have just been gushing about this nonstop since I read it. This is a dark, weird, modern fairy tale about this very mysterious woman named Indigo and her very mysterious childhood friend who went missing. It's just so creepy and so good. It had me hooked from beginning to end. I could not stop reading it. It felt like this just slow, creepy, disturbing march towards something. I just loved it. So give it a try if you haven't. It's been my favorite book of the year so far and will certainly be a contender for favorite book of the year. All right, question number 2, the best sequel that you've read so far in 2023. I feel like there were several things I could have picked for this question, but I'm trying to spread the love around with all of these questions. So for this one, I'm going with The Fragile Threads of Power by V.E. Schwab. And the reason I picked this is because this was such an unexpected sequel. When she announced that the original trilogy was continuing, I think a lot of people were really excited, myself included, and it just felt so special to be able to go back to this world and be back with these characters and see where things are going to go after the events of the original trilogy. I think this book had the very difficult job of being both a sequel to the original trilogy and its own first book in a new trilogy, so it was doing a lot, it was juggling a lot of things, but I think V.E. Schwab pulled it off really well. I absolutely loved being back with the characters and seeing where they are now and what's happened to them since the events of the last book. And I also loved getting introduced to the new characters and seeing, you know, kind of what things are brewing for this new trilogy, and I just loved it. I had a really, really fun time. So yes, best sequel. All right, question number 3 is a new release you haven't read yet, but you want to, and for this one I picked 3 books. So I'd say that the highest one on my list is The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. I mentioned in my last video that I've been in a pretty terrible reading slump, so there are a bunch of new releases that I haven't gotten to yet because I've been having a really hard time reading. So yeah, The Familiar is like the top of my list. I'm dying to read this, and so once I feel those sparks of interest coming back to me, this will hopefully be the first thing that I pick up. And then I have The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is the first book in a new trilogy featuring a sort of Sherlock-esque character and her assistant, and they're trying to solve the mystery of how an Imperial officer was murdered when a tree sprouted from his body. It just sounds like so much fun. I am a really big fan of Sherlock-esque type characters. I love that type of trope where you have someone who's just really, really good at something, but because they're really, really good at something, of course that comes with some very deep character flaws, right? I don't know exactly what it is about this that makes me want to read it so badly. It just is calling out to me. All right, and my third choice is The Honey Witch by Sydney J. Shields, and this just looks so adorable and charming and cute, and it's this sapphic romance between the Honey Witch and this like grumpy woman that she meets. I don't know, it just sounds so cute and I want to read it really bad. Okay, question number 4 is my most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and I have 2 choices for this. So the first is Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid. I really, really have come to love Ava Reid. I've read 2 of her novels thus far and I have enjoyed both immensely, and so I am super excited for this. I believe it's YA and it's from the point of view of Lady Macbeth, and I don't know, I just can't wait to see what she does with that character. So I'm really excited about that one, and then I'm also really excited about A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. T. Kingfisher has quickly become a new favorite author of mine. She just writes these wonderful, dark, fairy tale-esque books that have this just deliciously dry humor and excellent quirky characters. So I believe this is another sort of dark fairy tale by her, and I can't wait. I can't wait. So yeah, at the moment, those are my top 2 most anticipated books for the second half of the year. Okay, number 5 is Biggest Disappointment, and I have 3 disappointments to talk about. Because I can't just pick one thing, right? Okay, so my first disappointment I have already talked about, and it is Voyage of the Damned by Frances White. It was my first and only DNF of the year so far. I just did not enjoy the humor in this book. Some of the world building elements felt kind of jarring and weird to me. I don't know. I started it and I just felt this intense, like, no thank you, this is not for me. I'm willing to chalk it up to the book that I read right before it, which was very emotionally damaging. And so I may just have not been in the mood for this. And I might be willing to give it another shot at some point. The reviews for this are pretty high, like other people seem to really like this. I'm willing to say that maybe I didn't give it enough of a chance, but at the time it was a big no. And it wasn't the kind of no that I was like, oh, I'm just not in the mood for this and I'll read something else. Like, it was just a strong, like, I don't like this sense of humor. I don't like this main character. I don't like this world building. So I don't know. To be fair, I love humor in books. Like, I like quirky humor, British humor. I love A Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and The Princess Bride and things with humor. I like jokes, okay? Could it just be me? Yes. Could it be the book? Maybe also yes. Alright, my next two books are not quite as disappointing as that first one, but they were still disappointing. Next up I have Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Su Lin Tan. Now I did like this. I think I gave it a 3.5 or 3.75. I really enjoyed like the Chinese mythology and folklore feel of it. I really enjoyed the beginning the most, I think. There were just a couple of things that kept me from loving it as much as I wanted to. One was the writing style, which was very telly. Su Lin Tan told us a lot of things that I think she could have shown us. And one thing that started to really grate on my nerves by the end of the book is that she tells us how our characters are feeling really frequently without showing us. And she uses the word pride a lot. You know, she'll just tell us that someone's pride was hurt or that someone felt pride at something that someone else said. And it just started to get really repetitive and really annoying by the end of the book. There's also a love triangle trope that I hate that felt kind of silly and unnecessary. I don't know. Overall, I did like it. It wasn't terrible. It was just a little disappointing. All right, and then my third most disappointing book is a very similar vibe, and it's Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. Now, I love her other trilogy, The Remnant Chronicles. I adore that series. And that series has an excruciating love triangle. I mean, gut-wrenching, will they, won't they, who is she gonna choose? Like, Mary E. Pearson puts you through the ringer. She strings you along. You don't know who's endgame. I don't think I've ever read a book trilogy where I didn't know who was endgame. And this trilogy kept me guessing the whole time. While I love a lot of other things about the Remnant Chronicles, the characters, the world building, when I picked this up, I was in the mood for like a hate to love, slow burn romance. And I had heard that this was hate to love, and I wanted that excruciating wait, you know? And it happens so early, like way too early. The characters fall for each other and have these deep, intense feelings. By like chapter 3, I don't know if it's quite that early, but it's really early. Of course, there's more drama and people aren't who they say they are, and there's like things that keep them apart, but the feelings are already there from the beginning, which is not what I wanted. When I go into hate to love, I want something very specific, which is enemies to reluctant allies to friends to lovers. That's what I want. You gotta go through all 4 steps, and this didn't do it. It was really disappointing, and it was really jarring because I just wasn't expecting that. And even by the end of the book, like there's something that happens that like really rips them apart, and I thought, okay, here we go. Maybe book 2 is more of that like true enemies to lovers thing. But no, by the end of book 1, they like patch things back up. So I don't know. It just wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't what I was in the mood for. It's not what I was expecting based on Mary E. Pearson's other trilogy. So yeah, again, I think I gave this a 3.75. I still enjoyed the characters, you know, I still really enjoyed both the main characters. I like the side characters. I like this world. I think Mary E. Pearson does a really good job of writing characters that are really multi-dimensional. They have a lot of layers to them. And so I enjoyed all of those things. I enjoyed the references to the original trilogy. There were a lot of things in here that I liked, but the thing that I had gone into the book for wasn't there, which was disappointing. So, oh well. Okay, number 6 is Biggest Surprise. And this 100% has to go to The Ninth Reign by Jen Williams. The reason this gets this spot is because, of course, going into it, I expected to like it, but the level to which I like it is what was surprising, because I'd seen a few other booktubers read this, and most of their ratings were around a 4-star. And so that's what I was expecting for myself. I was like, okay, I'm gonna like this. It'll be a fun ride. And I just fell in love. I fell in love with this book. I fell in love with these characters. The world that Jen Williams creates here is so fascinating. There are so many mysteries and things to discover. And as you're reading this book, you will feel like an archaeologist, just like dusting things off and discovering things. Reading this was genuinely one of the coolest experiences I've ever had reading a book. Just truly. Biggest surprise in terms of just how much I adored this book and this trilogy. All right, so question number 7 is new favorite author. And for this, I don't really have a good answer. I feel like for an author to be a favorite author, you need to have read more than just one series by them. Like not only just multiple books, but multiple series, because, you know, an author can write a really excellent series that works for you, but you might not necessarily like their other books outside of that series, and therefore they're not like a favorite author, right? You see what I'm getting at? I do have 2 authors that have kind of solidified themselves as favorite authors of mine. So one is T. Kingfisher. I read Thornhedge this year and loved it. It's just this cute little novella about a little toad fairy named Toadling, and she is protecting this tower where a princess is sleeping, but it's not what you think. And I just really liked it and appreciated it. And again, it cemented that I am a big fan of T. Kingfisher, and I will likely be reading a lot more of her backlog. And second of all, I have Rebecca Ross. I read Ruthless Vows this year. I read Divine Rivals at the very end of last year, and I've read A River Enchanted 2 years ago. So at this point, I think I've really cemented that Rebecca Ross is a favorite author of mine. I really enjoy her writing style. It's very beautiful and atmospheric, and I genuinely really love how she writes romances. Like both of the romances I've read have been very enjoyable, you know, nice, slow burn romances. Yeah, not necessarily brand new to me authors, but authors that have cemented themselves as favorites. Okay, question number 8 is newest fictional crush, and I'm pretty sure that in the past I have changed this to my new favorite ship. For this, I have Emily Wilde and Wendell Bambleby. The 2 of them are just chef's kiss. I love them so much. Emily Wilde being just stuffy and oblivious and grumpy. I love her so much. And Wendell being this just like chaotic, charismatic man. I feel like he should just be throwing glitter around himself all the time. Them together is excellent. It is so much fun. It makes the whole series, their banter will have you giggling and squealing and kicking your feet. Like it's gold. I love them. So new favorite ship. All right, question number 9 is newest favorite character. And for this I have 2 answers. So first up goes to Vintage from The Ninth Reign. I love Vintage. I want to be Vintage when I grow up. She is everything. She is this eccentric older woman traipsing across the landscape, getting herself into danger, researching mysteries. Like her curiosity is infectious. She has this like wonderful sort of unshakable personality. Like she takes everything in stride. She calls everyone darling. Like it's just, she's so cool. And my second new favorite character, who I haven't had a chance to talk about yet, is Glocta from The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. Now, everybody loves Glocta. I feel like that's a pretty common sentiment that you see in fans of this series. And I will say that Joe Abercrombie writes all of his characters really well, and I was enjoying characters that I didn't think I would enjoy, because Joe Abercrombie just has this way of adding a lot of humor and irony, and I like it. And I especially love Glockta, who is of course a torturer, but his inner monologue is so funny. And it's so fascinating, and he has such a tragic backstory. You just can't help but love him. So yeah, I'm obsessed with Glockta. I need to read the rest of the series because I need to know what's going to happen to him. Okay, question number 10 is a book that made you cry. And while none of the books this year have made me cry, The Poison Song did, ruin my whole week. I loved it, don't get me wrong, I gave it 5 stars, but it did devastate me in a way that I didn't recover from for a while. I give Jen Williams serious props for this ending. Let's just say it hurt really bad. Question number 11 is a book that made you happy. And for this, I'm gonna go with Legends and Lattes and Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldree. I read these at the very beginning of the year, and they were so cute, they were so cozy, they were just really lovely reads that genuinely hit all the right notes. Like, they're not happy books. They do tend to have a little bit of melancholy, like they do tend to have sadder, darker elements, but overall, they're about found family and starting over, discovering yourself, and I really like them. I think they are a breath of fresh air in the fantasy space. Okay, question number 12 is favorite book to movie adaptation you've seen so far this year, and I've been racking my brain and I don't think I've seen any. So I'm gonna stretch this a little bit and say the TV show Peacemaker, which is based on a DC comic book character. My husband and I watched the show together and we both really loved it. Like, it was really dark and really funny and really gross, and it just sort of all works really well. It's from the same director who did the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, so if you enjoy those Marvel movies, you might really like this show. We both really loved it. Alright, question number 13 is favorite video that you've made this year. I have 2. So one is my Why is Reading So Competitive video. Genuinely, that video was just kind of like a pet project of mine. Like, it was just a discussion video that I wanted to make and to have, and I was not expecting it to do as well as it did. For context, my last discussion video I think only got like 400 views or something, and this video is now my most viewed video by far. So it was pretty cool to see that video take off, because I just was not expecting it to at all. So I'm really proud of it, and I'm really glad that you guys seem to like it so much. And my second favorite video that I've made this year was my bookshelf organization. It's a favorite just because I'm really proud of it, and I'm proud of myself for making it, because I'd been putting it off for such a long time because I just didn't know how to film it. Like, I'd never filmed a video like that. All of my videos tend to be these sitting down talking head videos, and I just had no idea how to shoot a bookshelf organization. And because I didn't know how to do it, I'd been putting it off for years now at this point, doing anything like that. So I'm just proud of myself for finally being like, you know what, just set up a camera, see how it looks. You don't have to publish it if you don't want to. And I think it turned out pretty cute, so I'm really proud of that video as well. Okay, question number 14 is the most beautiful book you've bought this year, and this goes to 2 books, one of which is this gorgeous edition of The Lies of Locke Lamora from The Broken Binding. I mean, look at this thing. It is stunning. The Broken Binding are crazy. I mean, just the quality that they're putting out is unmatched, truly. And these editions are maybe my favorite thing that they've ever done. A big fat yes from me. Genuinely, I think the second prettiest book I've gotten this year is The Honey Witch by Sydney J. Shields. This was from Fairy Loot, and it is just so pretty. The end paper art is completely foiled. It has a beautiful hidden cover. The stenciled edges are little honeybees and honeycombs. Like, it's just cute. It's so cute. I'm obsessed with it, and I think Fairy Lou did an amazing job with this. Alright, question number 15 is, what books do you really need to read by the end of the year? And for this, I'm just gonna say any books. Any more books would be very nice. Like I said, I have been in a terrible reading slump lately, and I'm just hoping to get out of it soon. Can anyone else relate to the feeling of being in a reading slump and feeling like you're never gonna read again? Because this happens to me every time I get in one. I'm like, okay, this is it. Like, I'm never gonna read another book in my entire life. Like, my interest in reading is over. It's, you know, it's time to sell the collection. Like, I just catastrophize completely. Which is ridiculous because I know it always comes back. Like, I know that the carousel just sort of comes back around. I don't know, every time I like fully lose interest, it feels devastating, right? It just feels like the end of the world. So I don't know if anyone else can relate to that, but that's, you know, I'm feeling a lot of despair. So yeah, any books in the second half of the year would be great. All right, and that is the end of the questions. I will leave both of the videos that I mentioned in this video here for you to enjoy in case you missed them. Please like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you want to see more from me. Hope to see you next time. Bye!